So the idea of the campaign is to engage people with the power of their money through their pensions, through their banks, and to try and shift that investment to be invested more sustainably, more responsibly. What we know is at least 70% of the UK public would like their pension invested sustainably. They'd like their bank to finance companies in a sustainable way. So that's really what the campaign's about. I joined it at the very start, and I was working then on the billions to trillions agenda in the British government, which was trying to look at ways we could mobilise more investment into developing countries. I thought of a campaign called Make Investment, Make Poverty History, and Richard Curtis, our co-founder, turned it into Make My Money Matter, which was much cleverer. But the notion that our pensions are powerful and they build the world that we're going to retire into, and that money could be invested for good rather than to cause harm, I think is a really powerful one. So it is a people-powered campaign. We've had thousands of people write to their pension fund, but what we've also discovered is the power of businesses and other employers, because they offer pensions to their staff, and their staff actually would like a sustainable pension. And that means now businesses are demanding more from the pensions industry, which is fantastic. So we've had people power, business power, and then we didn't quite realise the power of the media. So suddenly pensions that nobody understands is in the media spotlight, and that scrutiny then is also putting more pressure on the industry to shift, and that's a really good thing. So it's going to take time. We've seen around 60 pension funds make commitments to green their pensions, to align to net zero, to halve emissions this decade, which is fantastic. That's around about £1.5 trillion of money now committed in that way. We need to get the rest of the industry, but a lot of that is small pension funds, which actually are being consolidated into larger pension funds, which is a good thing. You want a larger pension fund that have more staff and capability to really do the right thing with your money and invest well. But while the industry is committed, there's a lot more to do, and part of our role is to hold them to account year on year for actually acting on these commitments. Last year we did a climate action report. It sort of ranked the top 20 defined contribution workplace pension providers. Some of them scored 5 red marks, others got 4 green marks and 1 red mark. So people could actually see who was doing well on acting on climate and who were the laggards. One employer told us that their pension fund had 5 red marks. They moved to an alternative provider, and it was one of the things that their staff were happiest about that year, because they work for a sustainable company. They'd like their money to be used sustainably as well. So I think if we do this kind of reporting on the progress pension funds are made, that will be really powerful. We're going to do a report this year. We hope that Which magazine will print it, and that's the biggest consumer magazine in the UK. And really, for the first time, consumers, ordinary customers, will know just how green their pension fund is. Employers will know that, and that's going to put pressure on the industry to act, which is fantastic. I think the first thing is to realise that pensions have enormous power, as I said earlier. So Mark Carney, many others describe this net zero transition as the biggest commercial opportunity in human history, more than the Industrial Revolution. So if you're a good fiduciary and you want to do the best for your pension savers, then you want to invest in that new opportunity where you can get good returns for 10 years, 20, 30, 40 into the future. And you might want to look at the investments that you have with these old assets like oil and gas companies, which in the end will be killed off as we have more renewable energy. So there's a bit of a balance to do there. Should governments set more ambitious capital mobilisation targets? I'm not sure about that, because I think pension funds need to determine what's best for the pension saver, but governments could help them by removing barriers that aren't necessary to investing in these climate solutions and other things. But governments could do a lot more to really set out the parameters of the transition. So when a government says in 2030, internal combustion engines, no more cars can be sold with them, that's a massive signal. And that means automobile manufacturers are going to start producing renewable electric vehicles. That means that's an opportunity for pension funds to invest. When a government says you can build onshore wind farms, which isn't the case in the UK at the moment, you've then got one of the quickest and cheapest forms of renewable energy that can be invested in straight away all across the UK and provide the cheapest energy to households. So governments need to do a lot more to really set out the boundaries of the transition. And what we've always called for is for government to say that all companies, corporates or financial institutions should have a net zero transition plan, and delivering it should be mandatory. And if government did that, we would all be moving in that direction straight away.